Hello and welcome back to another episode of Star Wars Alliance. Of course, I'm your host Clay, and with me today is, of course, Katie. Katie, how are you doing today?
I'm good, but Clay, it's not Wednesday yet.
Oh
It's
crap!
Monday.
It is. It is not. No, it is Monday night. Of course. No, we were all just joking. Katie decided, of course, to jump in with for Travis today. Travis is not here tonight. Of course, he has a huge final. I have TV shows and movies stuck in my head already. Um, no, Travis has a final tomorrow, and he needed all day today to get ready for that, to prepare. Um, Good luck to him. I know he's going to do great on that. But Travis is not here. Katie is here with me today on an episode of DC Alliance, of course. We are super excited to be talking about today. I think there's enough news that doesn't like go knee deep into DC lore or anything. So Katie, of course, was able to jump in, and I feel like her
Not
hot
like this
takes.
Natalie Portman shit, but you know.
She is of course taken all of her hot takes onto Twitter today because of the Thor Love and Thunder teaser just dropped. And I will say this, I just posted on Brent's post. He was talking about how, of course, everybody who hates Ragnarok is already hating on the teaser trailer for Love and Thunder. I will be completely honest. I enjoyed the teaser trailer. I thought it was fun. I think that I can give Taika another chance. I hated Ragnarok. I put Ragnarok on the same level of like Venom and Morbius and all of those because Ragnarok was trash. But I am excited to see Mighty Thor. I'm ready to see Jane Foster hold Mjolnir. I am ready for all of that stuff. But I'm ready to hear some of Katie's hot takes on this overhaul at DC that we are hearing all about. We will get more into that later tonight. And then, of course, we have news on HBO Max. We have news, of course, on what was some other topics that we have later today. We have some Batgirl news, an update on that as well. And of course, we have listener questions. So let's go ahead and jump into the paperwork for the GUA, of course, before we get into all of our topics tonight. Of course, DC Alliance is a part of the Geek Ultimate Alliance Network. What that means is we just have a plethora of shows for you guys to watch and listen. Go subscribe to the Geekverse YouTube channel. Make sure the notifications are on and on all, so that way you know when we go live every single time. Now, we do have a change up in the schedule. As you guys know, World's Finest True Believers is moving to monthly. And that means that Katie's Slice of Film is jumping into the Monday slot over at, of course, the Geek Ultimate Alliance with Ranger Alliance going bi-weekly every single week. And I think, now I didn't know this. I like kind of had a panic attack. I haven't even messaged you about it, Katie, but I was on our Star Wars Alliance Twitter account, and the very first post that popped up was from Slice of Film saying technical difficulties on the Lost City. What is all this about? What happened?
So Snell swears he got it scheduled to upload, but I was so busy yesterday.
Throwing Snell right under the bus. I love it.
I'm not saying I said technical difficulties first, y'all. But I had a really terrible day yesterday. I was busy, anxious, the whole 9 yards, but I did not notice until about 8 p.m. yesterday that the Lost City wasn't up. So we were able to get it uploaded. It's up there. You just reminded me that I need to go tweet and actually pick a winner for the Suicide Squad giveaway, which, by the way, I'll be giving away Eternals this week. So
very
if you're
fun. Very, very fun.
So I need to go tweet a PR tweet for the Lost City. But yes, that was a great episode with Sarah. I actually found Split, the one that we did, so I need to send that to you so that you can put in the ad breaks and stuff. We recorded that back in November.
I know we recorded that so long ago, and I noticed because, of course, I am the official editor and producer for Slice of Film. When you came back, of course, full time with Mark and Sarah, I was like, you know what? Maybe I should start numbering these episodes. That way I can keep track of them. And I was counting them all. And as I was counting them, I was like, where is Split? Where is Split? Where's my episode? What's going on? She forgot about me. No,
I
but
totally forgot about it. So I found it though.
that's great. That's great. Now, of course, we have other bi-weekly shows, such as, of course, the A Walk Through the Multiverse with Joe on Saturdays. I usually am with 4 shows. Now we're on 3 bi-weekly and then 1 monthly. And then, of course, everything else is weekly. That includes DC Alliance, Superhero Discussion, Star Wars Alliance, and, of course, Marvel Alliance. Marvel, DC, and Star Wars all have their solo feeds. So if you would like to listen to those separately, you can always do that. Or you can stick around here with the GUA and listen to everything. Now, of course, we are an ad-supported network and a listener-supported network. So if you would like those not to listen to those ads, you can always join us here on YouTube live. So you can watch all of these shows, that being the DC, Star Wars, and Marvel. But if you don't want to do that, you can always join our Patreon. Of course, $1 just says thank you, but $5 gives you that extra content, to the exclusive content, and of course, the early access to shows without ads. So, I believe that is everything. I'm trying to think of any special announcements. I can't really think of any right now. Well, actually, I was actually thinking about this. I could have easily just messaged the GUA. I'm going to go ahead and ask this question live so that way I can get an answer tomorrow because I'm too lazy to look at everything. So, Katie, I was thinking, because you're here, we could have this discussion on Wednesday, but it's Monday. Let's not have an answer until Tuesday before we even start the show. So, I was thinking the other day, we should actually go live on the day that Obi-Wan goes with the 2 episodes. So that way, Marvel can have Wednesday night with Moon Knight, and then
Moon Knight will be done by then.
Won't it have 1 more episode?
No, because it's had 3 episodes. So this week's 4, next week is 5. So first week of April, or first week of May, excuse me, y'all, I'm severely tired. Excuse me. First week of May is
so not Moon Knight. It'll have Miss Marvel then, right?
No, Miss Marvel is June 8th.
Damn it.
Plus,
so wait.
Plus, we're gonna have all of the Star Wars Celebration stuff. So I am trying to convince Snell to let us do a special episode for Obi-Wan Kenobi. That Friday.
That is true. We should.
But
you know what? Scratch the other stuff. But let's just promote the extra episode. I think everybody would appreciate the extra episode with Obi-Wan Kenobi and the new stuff.
Star Wars doesn't get enough extra episodes.
We were actually just talking about that in the GUA. Now, I know we kind of veered off of this, but I will say this. Chris was the one that posted it. So, it's not us complaining. It's just us acknowledging the fact that everybody else is making the exact same, they're finding out everything that we have been talking about. Snell is saying, I have it on good authority. It's approved. Boom. Look at that. We are going to have a special episode of Obi-Wan that week on the 25th of course, May, and doing everything celebration. That's going to be a very fun week. Hopefully we get a lot of good news for Star Wars Alliance. But let's go ahead and move towards, of course, DC Alliance. Let's go ahead and talk our main topic. It's going to be the juiciest topic of the night, of course. So, on April 14th, I believe it was a Thursday, Variety.
Now says, also has Clay been kidnapped and is being forced to podcast from his closets. I have it on good authority that his wife is in the bedroom taking the TV. So,
yes.
But I also have it on good authority. The closet is good soundproofing.
Yes, it is. It is very good soundproofing. I told Hines that this is quite possibly the best sound I have gotten from this microphone and our recordings on the podcast since I've started the podcast. And I'm like, holy crap, it is way too hot in here. I don't want to have to keep doing this. So hopefully with the new apartment that I'm getting, hopefully by next month, I won't be in a closet, but I can get this kind of same sound. I'm really, really hoping. But the main topic of tonight, on Thursday, April 14th, Variety put out an article talking about this overhaul of DC Entertainment Discovery, or should I say Warner Brothers Discovery, WBD, as I like to call them, is looking to overlook everything when it comes to DC Entertainment and change some things up. I got a quote here specifically. It says, insiders say that Zaslav believes that the success of the merger, one that has left the company highly leveraged, will rest in a small part on unlocking the full potential of the DC Comics universe of characters. Discovery insiders believe that although DC has achieved cinematic success with the recent films such as Aquaman, The Batman, it lacks a coherent creative and brand strategy. That sounds familiar. Discovery believes that several top shelf characters, such as Superman, have been left to languish and need to be revitalized. They also believe, lost my place. Hold on. They also believe that projects like Todd Phillips' Joker are a shining example of how second build characters from the DC library can and should be exploited. So, Katie, with this news, because I don't think I've heard your opinion on things like the Joker or the Joker in general, the movie. What do you think about this news?
So, I have a review on my personal website, slicerscribbles.com. Is where you can go check it out, where it has my full thoughts on the Joker. But long story short, I was not a huge fan. I thought it was, cinematography wise, it was well done. But I believe the characterization that they chose to do of Joker, I was not a fan of, especially for where we're at in today's society. And yes, I know film shouldn't be responsible for how people act, but unfortunately it is. And so that was a little disheartening to me to see. So I would definitely, I don't consider that a shining example, even though it made above $1 billion. Yes, it did. I consider Harley Quinn to be a really good one that should be exploited. I think Margot Robbie's fantastic in the role. But definitely leaving characters like Superman in the dust. And realistically, just opening the doorways to a lot of, because DC has so many so many characters that could really be exploited for this. I mean, DC is why I am where I am. I loved the Justice League animated show. And so even though I'm a huge Star Wars fan, DC's where I got my start in nerddom, to say the least. So I do somewhat agree, despite my opinions on Todd Phillips' Joker, with the statement that they need to be unlocking characters. Now, one of the pieces of news we got today, I disagree with, and I don't think they needed to take it that far into a different interpretation from the baseline. But it could definitely stand a coherent voice, and I think DC can succeed with that, unlike what we've discussed with Star Wars, with there being different timelines or a vast timeline that you kind of have to maintain. DC's kind of more exclusive in one range, with maybe some random ones here or there, like Marvel with like Eternals or Captain Marvel, Captain America.
And I was also gonna say, we have seen of course, what some people may think is the gold standard, which is the MCU. Then we see things like, of course, we We talk Star Wars every single week, and
Mhm.
then I went on to double check some other stuff. Uh, when it comes to a cohesive story, and it comes to the start of a universe, would you say, or within a huge fandom such as Star Wars and DC and Marvel, you have Star Trek. Star Trek has a really big fandom, and from what I've been seeing at Paramount and what they are doing over
Mhm.
there, it looks very coherent, it looks very nice. The aesthetic of everything is very appealing, and I look at that and I say I want that for DC. When it comes to DC though, I like the idea of what DC fans would call their black label. In DC
I would
Comics,
agree.
they have a black label that ever since Batman Damned has really been pushed as like a, hey, here's where we can talk dark gritty Batman stories. It was once going to be like, hey, here's some dark gritty stories from DC, and they haven't really published anything outside of, unfortunately, Batman stuff. But of course, next, I think this summer there's going to be an Aquaman book. They have The Question out there. They did a Harley Quinn book, but of course she is tied to Batman. uh, and it makes me wonder, because I actually really enjoyed the Joker, but I didn't enjoy Batman. And some people think that because of the success of the Batman, it's going to be harder to find a Batman for the main timeline that we know of as the DCEU. And I somewhat agree with that, because unfortunately, with somebody like a character of Batman, the company of WB loves to protect what they think is invaluable and saying, hey, this is the only moneymaker we have. We cannot share it. We can't move it anywhere else. It needs to stay where it's at so it can continue to generate the money that it's already making. So with Batman, I know people will say, oh, well, they're making Flashpoint and there's 3 Batmen in there. Yes, but it doesn't look like there's a whole lot of plans as of yet, because the only thing that we've heard of course, is Keaton and Batgirl. But we don't know anything else. We haven't heard if there's an extended deal with Keaton or anything else. There's rumors, of course, with the whole crisis that we talked about a couple episodes ago, that, Keaton may be the start of that or anything else. So, what I'm getting at here is I am afraid that if we get too stuck on this black label stuff, especially with Matt Reeves' Batman verse, we may not get a Batman in the DCEU that is going to be able to play along with the rest of the characters.
Right,
I know,
because the other concern you have to consider with Keaton, who is not my favorite Batman by any
neither
means.
neither am mine. He is
So,
not mine as well. So go ahead.
w- is Keaton's 72 years old at this point. So you've got to think, okay, how long is he really going to want to be in a bat suit? Sure, they could be paying him out the wazoo, but eventually the guy's going to want to enjoy his old age. And I mean, we're seeing more and more frequently older actors are having to retire for one reason or another.
Yeah.
So you can't count on Keaton for the long haul. You have to eventually go, okay, we need to reboot into another one. And S Bubs, you say that, but I also say the same thing. How long is he gonna want to be in that damn vulture suit? So
And it's a good point. It's a valid point, because I was talking about this with my co-host with Batman News Weekly in regards to Batman. It's really hard because, especially now with the MCU, there was an article like last year, the year before that. I think during the peak of the pandemic, there was an article about how, or actually, you know what? Not the peak of the pandemic. It was mostly right after all of that stuff with Scarlett Johansson, talking about how they aren't going to be making large contracts anymore. They're going to be kind of smaller. They're going to be able to, get people for maybe 1 or 2 films and then see how it goes from there, whatever it was. And with bigger IP characters, such as your gold digger freaking moneymaker Batman, you're going to want somebody who's going to be able to stay for the long haul, right? That's how
mhm.
I'm looking at it. So why not make that giant contract saying, hey, we want you to be Batman for at least another 5 to 6 films. And with how films are made, especially now during, post pandemic, that's quite a while. That's not just, you know,
Mhm.
3 years. That is quite possibly anywhere from like 4 to 10 years. And that's a long time. That's a big commitment for a character. But with the money that is guaranteed with a character like Batman, I think that's something that you have to do. But Batman is not who we're talking about. What we're talking about is people or characters like what they gave here, Superman. That has been a big talk recently. I know that there's a lot of people that want, of course, Tyler Hoechlin from Superman and Lois to jump on ship for the DCEU. There's still talk of people wanting Brandon Routh to have his Kingdom Come Superman show. I want Henry back. Don't think that's going to happen. So when it comes to revitalizing, and of course, this is just another way for DC to say, hey, we want that Marvel money. We want that Marvel money, right?
I I think I'm gonna, maybe this is a hot take, maybe it isn't. DC needs to go back to the DCAU if they want to establish a consistent timeline um for like a full Justice League, other things. I loved the DCAU. I think it's one of the best things that Warner Brothers has put out in quite a while. Was that full storyline of the animated universe. So to see it kind of go under the water and then to see what they're now putting out hasn't been entirely thrilling. So I think if they want to do something cohesive, they need to lean more in that direction. Because I mean, Robert Downey Jr. stuck around for 12 years to play Iron Man and knocked out what, 6 films in that time frame? And
His three, and then of course the Avengers, Age of Ultron, and then Civil War, and then of course Infinity War and Endgame. So a total
and
of
Spider-Man.
and Spider-Man. So gosh, that was uh 8, 9,
Yeah.
somewhere around there.
And
Can't do math
I
right now.
mean,
Holy crap.
I can't either, so we're not going to try, but we listed all the films. Um so I think you have to kind of take things more realistic, especially post pandemic, and kind of see, okay, we may not be able to get a big cohesive universe of people in person because people have realized, hey, we need to be open to other opportunities because we might not get them in the future.
On the
So
game
having
says
it,
9 films.
yep, 9. Thanks for doing the math on the game. We appreciate it.
I think
Um, so
there's a lot of people. I will say there's a lot of people that share that opinion that like, hey, the DCAU had the golden ticket of how to create a universe, how to portray characters, and I do agree with that. But that was, of course, started off of the shoulders of Batman the Animated Series and Superman the Animated Series. There was at least a start there that created a universe.
mhm,
And I will admit this, as much as I want a coherent story and something that shows me that DC has a for sure structured universe, I don't think that they need to be chasing Marvel money because all they're going to be doing is, oh, well, this isn't what we wanted. Let's reset. Oh, this isn't what we wanted. Let's reset. Oh, and they're going to keep playing catch up over and over and over and over again. There is no catching up to the MCU. I'm sorry. They are 20 plus films in. You are not going to make as much money as the MCU has currently already made when you start over. And you shouldn't
stop.
try to do it.
Yep, stop trying to reinvent the wheel and build
Exactly.
your own path.
Exactly. And
I think
I do think, oh, go ahead, go ahead.
building a black label option for DC where they just choose to do different storylines, and hell, even bringing in creators like, I don't know what you want to call like the Batman, but like if you wanted to say the Batman Dark or Batman Dark and then Batman XYZ. like and have 2 iterations going. I think studios need to stop thinking that their audiences are so dumb that they can't tell the difference between characterizations, especially with trailers and stuff. Like you can clearly see from a trailer that it's like that something is very different from a predecessor. So,
Yeah. And I do agree with that. I do agree that the audience is a lot smarter than what Hollywood thinks they are. And I do think that if you want to copy something that has been very successful in the MCU, bet on smaller characters. They're doing it now with Blue Beetle on HBO Max, but you need to be willing
Blue
to
Beetle is
do.
going to theaters.
Yes, it's gonna be simulcast. It's gonna be HBO Max
I
and
thought
theaters. I believe so, because everybody
because I
is still
remember people
calling it.
getting mad.
Oh,
I don't know.
they definitely did. They definitely did. But I do think that they announced that it was going on both same day. Now, if they change that, I think that's I kind of want to see it at the comfort of my own home. But I would be willing to purchase a ticket for that movie 10 times over. That's just who I am.
S-Bub
So
agrees with me.
I think it's theaters now only. Okay. Um, but as far as putting out movies, I think that you should go for, and that's why I kind of put the background that I did here, because if you notice behind us, you can't see any of the main characters. You see some of the oddball characters in the background only because we're covering them up. You see people like Red Tornado, you see people like Green Arrow, you see Black Canary, Zatanna, Martian Manhunter, um, freaking Plastic Man, Hawk Girl. Like you need to be willing to throw some of these characters out there to see if the audience will enjoy them. We
Mm.
see freaking Elastic Man also. Like I do think when you put some of these oddball characters out there, because people don't realize this, Iron Man, although an Avenger, back in 2008 before the movie,
Nobody knew who he was.
nobody cared who he was. When it
Mm.
came to comics, some of the biggest Marvel comics were, of course, Spider-Man and the X-Men. Nobody, like, I think by the time 2008 came out, or 2008 Iron Man came out, I would say, gosh, Iron Man was well in his 300 count as far as comics, maybe 400. And I mean, it was like, but the MCU and Kevin Feige put him on the map, and he did a great performance, and he created a whole new universe with that character. And that kind of brings us to our second part of this story, a very interesting part of this story, and something that we've talked about in previous episodes here. SBub says, yeah, it was developed for HBO Max, but now it's going to theaters only from what I'm reading. Thank you, SBubs, for that correction on Blue Beetle. Now, the second part of this story, like I said, is something that we've kind of discussed here on DC Alliance, but I do feel like, well, real quick, before we jump into there, talking about this quote here that says, Superman has been left on the side to languish. There, of course, has been, I feel like, a whole pocket of characters that has been left to languish. But most importantly, a lot of people have been asking, where's Man of Steel 2? Where's Man of Steel 2? Of course, they don't listen to Snyder when he says, oh, BVS is that continuation of that story. But of course, people are, I want the Superman solo story. I want that solo story that's just Superman. I want it to. I'm a big Superman fan. He's my number one DC hero, right above Nightwing and Superboy. And gosh, who would I say my fourth would be? Probably Kyle Rayner, Green Lantern. But I do think for now, which a lot of people will not agree with me, is I do think Superman may need to be put on the wayside just for a little bit longer. But I do think what Henry Cavill was fighting for, Superman being one of those top build characters that, is well established and also helping build the universe, I think Superman and Batman, and quite possibly Wonder Woman, all three, need to be, instead of having one person be the Nick Fury of the DC universe, I think that all three need to, because that was kind of the big thing. Of course, even in the Justice League animated series, you saw them working together as a team, talking to the Justice League about what initiatives to do, what missions, and whatnot. So I think the Trinity should be a big part of this new overhaul in the DCEU. So SBob is saying, well, if the rumors are true for the Flash, of course, he's talking about the eraser of course, all of everything Snyder. I'm sure that's what he's referencing. But the second part of this story, talking about, we've already referenced him today, Kevin Feige in the MCU. Does DC need one? Of course, a lot of people say that people need, especially in the development team of these DC movies, need a Kevin Feige-esque character to help lead them. Well, the quote here on Variety says, one insider suggests that Zaslav was less interested in finding a creative guru and more eager to hire someone who had the type of business background needed to keep all of the different factions of DC working more harmoniously. Now, of course, those different factions, if you look at WB and DC and what they have, you have, of course, the DCEU, you have HBO Max, and you have the DCCW. And of course, you also
Please just get rid of the DCCW.
and you also have the DC Black Label stuff via, Joker and the Batman. So, Katie, do you think that they need to work harmoniously? Do they all need to be connected? Do they need to, bounce off one another? And do we need to see somebody, one individual, to control everything? What are your thoughts?
I think a business perspective would be something smart because they know how to analyze a crowd maybe better than a creative person might. Feige has worked incredibly hard at getting where he is with the MCU and being able to, he has a staff that he trusts to kind of go, okay, what direction do we need to go in with this character? And obviously Iron Man was picked first to go into a movie setting, and nobody knew who Iron Man was. They just kind of wanted to go, okay, we need a movie. We need to inject money back into the budget. And then went in that direction. And so they've kind of picked and chosen characters now that kind of go, okay, we're going for a story and not necessarily caring if you don't like this or not. Because I know Eternals was kind of sort of got mixed reviews. So I think not Disney. We're not here to talk about Disney. I think Warner Brothers Discovery might be in a smart place to go business where they can do some analytics on crowd pleasers, because DC has all of their characters. They don't need to worry about having to pick a smaller character simply because they don't have Superman or they don't have Wonder Woman. All in the Game says they need an individual overseer with a love and knowledge of the source material in addition to a business acumen. I would disagree.
So this is where if you see this statement here, and this is what I've always said, I've said this previously on the show, individual overseer with a love of knowledge of the source material, example being DC Comics, and in addition to business. This is why it needs to be two people. And I will remind people, the reason why Kevin Feige is as good as he is in the position that he is in is because he did not start with Iron Man. He had credits as far back as the X-Men movies. And I'm not entirely well. I think X-Men 1 was before Spider-Man. I do believe somebody
I think so as
correct me
well.
if I'm wrong. That goes years back before the Marvel Studios proper that Disney owns today was even like fully like a well-oiled
Mhm.
machine. So Kevin Feige does in fact have more experience, and he has said so in the past that he is a lover of comics. He has both of these things that All in the Game is asking for. Now, you cannot ask for every businessman or woman that is going into WB Discovery, hey, you guys need to start reading comics. Y'all need to start, being very what's the word I'm looking for? Be knowledgeable in what we are producing as far as the TV shows and the movies. Not comics aren't for everybody. They just aren't. This is why I say, and it may be a pay increase, it may be a pay decrease, but I think that WB Discovery would be willing to pay a pretty penny to Jim Lee to be part of the two-man team. He's the head of DC right now. He needs to step down from that, working full-time with WB Discovery in a DC Studios along with a producer. Now, I have talked to even Chris Balga, of course, the uh, host of World's Finest True Believers, the co-host of Marvel Alliance. I talked to him about Star Trek. He's a very big Star Trek lover. I talked to him and I was like, okay, so Star Trek, is it run by one individual? He said, yes, it's run by, and I believe the man's name is Alex Kurtzman. Kurtzman is his name, and
Mhm.
he runs everything. He runs the Nickelodeon show. He runs everything on Paramount Plus, and technically, with a little bit of course, uh, retconning a little bit, and a large, vast time difference between shows, everything is technically connected. Everything can make sense on a timeline, so they're able to do it. Like I said before, that is one individual. He's been able to do it. I think DC Comics, having the history that it has, 80 years worth of history, 80 plus years of history, I think it's a two-man job. And I make fun of Kevin Feige for having that much job anyway. Everybody's like Lord and Savior Kevin Feige. I'm like, no, that's way too much power for one individual. It needs to be two. That's just my opinion.
And I think the business side of it would take a great deal of pressure off somebody who can be fully just in charge of a story. So I think the priority needs to be a business person because Warner Brothers WBD needs to lean in a direction of smart business decisions, especially after this merger. So if they can do a business person who can run specifically like Black Label movies and get DC stuff going at the start, um I think that's a smarter move than trying to hire a person in charge of the story um in order to work through everything. So
Yeah. SPub says, hire fans. No, that is
hell
the
fucking
worst
no.
thing that you can do. No, we've seen
Hell
the hellhole that is Twitter. So, no, let's not do that. I will always say I'm available, but I even told Abby that I myself, as a fan, can take myself out of the scenario and say, hey, I think there is some clear business decisions that even I would hate that need to happen at DC, instead of just being the fanboy that I am and being like, "Oh, let's do this, let's do this, let's do this." Like that's not the way to go, for sure. Now, let's go ahead and
S-Bubs, here's my gift. Hell fucking no. So,
let's go ahead and jump into our second topic here. Of course, we got some little bit of I wouldn't say update. It was more of just like a casual interview that Leslie Grace was making or had about the topic of course, Batgirl. And she talks a little bit about a possible Batgirl 2. This was also from Variety. I have some of the quotes, some of the questions that they were asking Leslie. Variety question was, have you reached out to other actors who have played superheroes like Gal or even Silverstone or Alicia Silverstone? And she said, I did reach out to Sasha Kai. She actually said no, that she had not reached out to Gal or no to Silverstone, but she did say, I did reach out to Sasha Kai, who is Supergirl in The Flash, and I'm hoping that we get to meet soon because we're part of the new generation. I did reach out to Sholo Maduenya, our Blue Beetle. He is freaking awesome. I am so happy for him. So it's really cool that this new generation of heroes is they're communicating, they're getting to know each other. I'm really hoping for a team up in the future for these three. I think that would just be amazing. But Variety also asked, when do you start shooting Batgirl 2? You know,
I
really
think this was
trying
an
to feed into like,
absolutely
hey,
idiot. This is an idiotic question. And they just got done shooting Batgirl 1, and literally we've only seen a promo image of her in her costume that probably is just done with a basic background. It is a dumb ass question, and the Variety person should have known better than to ask it. Because I mean,
oh,
what is she gonna tell you?
I definitely think so. But of course, whatever nuggets you're gonna get, you know, I think that's the game now. It professional be damned. You know, you just got to get the questions that, because if you can get a juicy answer and be able to say, hey, Variety got it first, that's all they care about. That's all they care about.
That's all they
Right?
care about. But yeah, it's so. Uh, Grace says, we got to see this first one first, yes, but there's definitely some talks about what it could be. I've seen some of what we've shot, obviously in the playback and stuff like that, and it's insane. We've already been talking about where do we take this from here because there's so much that happens in this film. There are a lot of different themes in the plot that we touch on. It's not just the action, there's a love story, there's this father-daughter relationship, there's looking at the world through a lens that isn't just black and white and seeing the color and the spectrum between things. So this isn't an answer. This is just her talking about kind of what's going on for Batgirl. And yes, S Bubs, Scoop Warfare doesn't mean I can't call it out and say that it's a fucking dumbass question. Sorry, y'all. I'm so tired, and I am. I wish I could get paid to ask
a silly
meaningful
question.
questions to these people.
No, it is a silly question because I mean, why on earth would you say or even ask, hey, when are you shooting this second movie to like not even the film's not even finished being made?
Because the
That's
other
the one
fact of the
thing.
matter, yeah, it's not finished being made. And the fact of the matter is the Flash just got delayed till next summer 2023, and this movie was originally supposed to come out after the Flash. And which
Some reports
explains
saying anywhere between November and December of last or of this year. Yeah.
right, because it's supposed the Flash is supposed to explain how Keaton is in this universe now.
Yeah.
Supposedly. Again. But so now you're asking about a movie that isn't even confirmed, that isn't even done, a sequel to a movie that isn't done filming and is probably about to get delayed again because of a delay to another movie. Because, and that's the problem with a connected universe, is that you have to continually backtrack all of your movies. See Marvel in the pandemic, because they had to just keep pushing everything back because it all flows
Well,
together.
and that's something else that I wanted to ask you personally, just because of all of this. Do you think, because again, as a as two people that have just said that Hollywood needs to stop acting like we are dumb, do you think if this movie comes out at the end of the year, are we smart enough to say, okay, this is after Flashpoint, this is after the Flash movie, without seeing the Flash?
I think I think you can say that and go, hey, this is supposed to come out after this. If you say that, you're going to wreck your audience for Batgirl. And you're not going to get as many viewers in the first couple of months because people are going to be like, oh, well, this happens after The Flash. I might as well just stay like over here and then come back and watch it after The Flash finally comes out, if it's an actual fucking film.
Ooh.
So
I mean,
I think audiences are smart enough. I think it's just going to be detrimental to getting people to see the film.
yeah. Which does make sense. I think that they will. I'm not saying that they will release it before the Flash, but it was just a
Right.
thought. I think that you could easily watch a movie and then watch another movie and be like, oh, that takes place before this one, and you've seen it in novels before. You've kind of seen it in comics before. I think it can work, but with the visual medium that is movies, especially now with the popular timelines of these superhero genres, I think that they will in fact very much delay this movie until after the Flash. So we
Because
will not see this movie until after summer of 2023.
yeah, and again, problem with connected universes, but I think it was like it affected my understanding of like Black Panther because Black Panther come is supposed to take place in the MCU timeline right after Civil War basically.
Mhm.
But it comes out like 3 movies later. I'm not looking it up, but it's like 2-3 movies later after Civil War, and you're like, wait, when is this supposed to take place? Because they're like, oh, your father just died. You have to come home for a crowning right now.
And
So
this and the
it
same thing
affects my
happened
understanding of
with
the film, and I consider myself a very smart person, but it just wasn't clear.
and the
So,
same thing happened with Black Widow. They
yep.
didn't really say where on the timeline. Of course, when you watch the movie, you can kind of tell where it
Mhm.
is, but then they're like, "Oh, well, it happens in between or during everything that is happening via Civil War and Black Panther." So, uh, the next topic that we have on hand is, of course, let's go ahead and jump into listener questions. Right before that, let me see here. The chat has been kind of lively. SBub is saying, uh, oh, are you clicking it too? Stop clicking it, Katie. Okay, hold on. But that didn't really affect the story. You could have not known that, and it didn't ruin the movie because it was a standalone. That is true. That is true. As
It
far
is
as Black
true,
Panther
but
goes,
it
that was
doesn't
by
detract
itself.
from my point that a connected universe, for me, that made it a little confusing about where it happens. No, it doesn't affect the storyline, but it would detrimentally affect Batgirl, I think, here, especially for long-term fans of the DC universe, old films, new films, whatever. So I think my point stands. And you may be
Keaton
saying that
just
S Bubs, I'm sorry.
SBub is also saying Keaton just being in the movie as Batman randomly would be more confusing. Would it? Because a lot of people just like Keaton as Batman, so they're gonna say he's back, he's Batman, cool. I see him as Batman, cool. He's Batman. I think that's gonna happen more so than, hey, wait, where in his timeline did he jump here? Did he move here? Or did he do this and do that? No, they're just gonna
I
see
think
Keaton as Batman and just love him as Batman.
But I think the problem is that most people right now consider every single DC movie to be a part of the timeline. And because Warner Brothers hasn't made that clear that they're not part of the timeline. It hasn't been a forefront of their opinion. The Batman could very well be just a separate piece of the puzzle in the DCEU.
Well, I mean, everybody knows my opinion on the Batman. Seeing him actually be Superman and eating that brick of C4 right to the face, I stand my case. But you're right. If they wanted to, you're absolutely right. They could right now say, oh, by the way, Robert Pattinson is going to be on screen with Henry Cavill, Gal Gadot, and the rest of the Justice League in this new movie coming up in 2024. They could definitely do that because, of course, they have the power to do so. Now, of course, Matt Reeves has said that that's not a part of his universe. That's the whole point. The whole point of his contract is to say, "Hey, I'm going to, jump into doing this trilogy or this whole universe by myself and whatnot." So I don't think they will do that. But if they want to burn bridges, which we've definitely seen WB do, they could definitely say, hey, Pattinson, you're going to be teaming up with the rest of the Justice League.
Yeah.
But let's go ahead
So,
and jump into the listener questions. We have 3. One of them actually pertaining to the stuff that we were talking about earlier with the overhaul of DC. S. Bubs asks right here, says, oh, where is it? Says, which second build characters do you think could get a solo project in the future? Which, if you are really including Joker as a second build character, then this can basically be any character. So, who do you think, as far as, because you said you've had knowledge of the Justice League animated universe, Justice League Unlimited, they had a plethora of characters in those shows. So, who do you think should be a character that DC focuses on, or WB Discovery should focus on for their next project?
I would actually really love to see a Poison Ivy project come to light. I think Poison Ivy's really underutilized and not really well done. Uh Best guess is that the Harley Quinn animated show is really using her well. But I'd love to see something live action and solo come to light. You could even play it off as a Harley Quinn Poison Ivy flick because I think those two really go well together from what I've seen on the Harley Quinn animated show. So that would be one I'd love to see. Hero based project. I'd love to see something Hot Girl related. And we know Hot Girl is not currently set to be featured in Black Adam. But I've always loved Hot Girl in the Justice League animated show. I think her story there was particularly interesting, especially being someone who comes to Earth as a spy and then ends up falling in love with the planet that she comes to. I think that could easily be an adaptation of something that's really cool for people to see. Most of the live action adaptations currently relate to her being a reincarnation from Egypt, I think,
Mm-hmm.
and not really Thanagarian. So I'd love to see that happen.
Okay. So I
What about
think
you?
for me, as far as like that kind of Black Label-esque story, I would like something on the lines of like I'm trying to think of movies that could easily be like this. What is that movie? Not Wolf on Wall Street. Um, oh shoot! It had Steve Carell, Christian Bale. It had what's his name from who played Hawkeye? It had a whole bunch of characters. Or act like really high build. It had Amy Adams. Oh shoot! What is that
A-
movie?
Amy Adams. Who else?
Steve Carell, Christian Bale. What is that movie? Uh, something along the lines of that, and along the lines of that of like,
Vice?
is it Vice? It might be Vice.
I just
Maybe.
typed in Amy Adams, Steve Carell, Christian Bale, and Vice is the number one that comes up.
Okay. So something along the lines of that, or like maybe even like a Social Network, but like Lex Luthor in the
Okay.
business world. You know, I
Yeah.
think that could be something very uh American Hustle. That's it. Thank you on the game. That's the one I am looking for. Yes, American Hustle. Like I said, something along the lines of Social Network. Also, I think that a Lex Luthor story, building up LexCorp and like actually like playing the billionaire playboy alongside that of a Bruce Wayne, and like
Yeah.
not really talking the whole like superhero thing, but the business stuff. I do think like playing in that world with that money and with that power and how he is as Lex Luthor, I think that would be something that might be interesting as well. As far as superhero projects, um, as far as like a I have always said, I know he's gotten a lot more popular with the CW and whatnot, but it would be super cheap. $60 million,
Yeah.
Green Arrow. I think that it could make bukus of money.
Yes.
I think
I and
you
I
give him
think I
a
would be
low budget.
spoiled.
What? You think
I
what?
think I would be spoiled because I absolutely love Stephen Amell's portrayal of Green Arrow, so I'd go into it with a little bit of expectations. But I'd love to see something Green Arrow and Black Canary.
I think a lot of people will. It's not on the same level. Nothing will ever be on the same level as Hugh Jackman and Wolverine. But I do think that Stephen Amell did put a very big stamp on the character of Green Arrow. And I
Mhm.
think that whoever is going to be the Green Arrow of the DCEU, I think they will, in fact, have the shadow of Stephen Amell always there. And so uh, I think you give a $60 million budget, and that movie will make bank. I guarantee it. That's the
I think
one that
so
I
too.
have for sure. Next question comes from Travis Snell. Now, we had a little bit of a back and forth. People do not like my opinion on Kevin Hart, apparently. But he asks, where does Super Pets fit in the overhaul of DC? Now,
I'm gonna.
you go first,
Sorry.
Katie. You go first.
So I think it fits into the overhaul of the DCEU by providing something that's a little more family friendly while still being something that the whole family, minus Clay, can enjoy. Plain and simple answer there for you.
I was actually going to say,
No S Bubs.
I
I
th-
want to go to bed.
yes, we were moving this very quickly after this. I was just going to say, I think that WB Discovery would be very smart to be very open-minded about their family-friendly content. And if this is a moneymaker for them, then it's going to continue. Um, but I don't see any more of the like Pets at Home or whatever that movie was, or Pets, I think it was. Those aren't made. There's no more of those. I think two was it, and they were out. So I don't see there being any more than possibly two, but that doesn't really mean that DC animation is going to be over. That just means that
But
they're going to move on to the very next thing.
you have top tier talents in Dwayne Johnson. Keanu Reeves is fucking Batman. Like, come on.
Tell me where Skyscraper 2 is. Have you seen the movie Skyscraper?
No.
It's a movie with Dwayne the Rock Johnson. It was basically
I
like supposed to, it looked like a Die Hard movie with Dwayne the Rock Johnson, and it did horribly. Like Dwayne the Rock Johnson, he is high talent, but he looks for quantity over quality. He will make as much movies as he can so that way he can get as much money as he can and then dip. That's what he
but
does.
I think the biggest thing with Dwayne is that he still looks to make things that are cheesy gold. I think so.
Maybe.
I really enjoy his work in the Jumanji movies. So
Now, our very last question does come from Brent. He was a last minute addition to the questions tonight. He asks, last minute question for DC Alliance. Which individual person do you think has the most positive impact on DC live action projects? Now, as far like I did ask him to elaborate, I did say, okay, do you mean like people who have been involved in prior DC projects? Do you mean somebody in the future? What exactly are you getting at? And he did say, like, that's what he was getting at as far as the people that have already been involved in DC projects in the past. Who do you think is the most influential in, the DC universe and future projects? I personally think that it would be either that of a John Cena, now with his popularity as Peacemaker, James Gunn, or still Margot Robbie. I think that she has invested her time and has basically made the promise, hey, if I'm gonna be Harley Quinn for like the next 30 years, I'll do it. That's basically what she's already put out there. But Katie, who do you think is the most influential?
I would have to agree on Margot Robbie. I don't think she was done quite as much justice as I would have liked her to have in the Suicide Squad. But she still brings a lot to the character. And I think she's really put her heart on her sleeve for it. To the point where her initial portrayals in Suicide Squad and then Birds of Prey, some were like she is Hugh Jackman to Wolverine in that sense, where people are always going to think of Margot Robbie when you think live action Harley Quinn. So by far that I am wearing a Snyder shirt. However, I based on some of the fandom, I would not say it's been so positive. So
That is true. But we also have seen the big waves that they have made in the Oscars. No,
in the Oscars, they've done a lot for suicide prevention, which is a very good thing. But I can't, and it always sucks to see the bad outweigh the good. But
yes.
with just how involved we are on Twitter, we see the depths of it, and it sucks. So
Yes, yes, it does indeed. Now, the last topic of the night is basically not even a topic at
no,
all. It is very much so. The name for the last topic that I put in my show notes here is Wonder Twins, more like Wonder Why, because Wonder Twins have found the project of Wonder Twins on HBO Max have found their Wonder Twins. It looks like KJ Appa and Isabel May have been cast in the HBO Max original Wonder Twins. Of course, Wonder Twins centers on an alien sibling duo, Jaina and Zane, who can activate their superpowers by touching hands and saying their catchphrase, Wonder Twins powers activate. Jaina can transform into any animal, while Zan can transform into water. Uh, I am not excited about this. I think that this is a waste of time and money. Now, of course, somebody must have asked for it. I think it was more so people trying to sell more of Bendis's comic books. He recently worked on a Wonder. I can't even remember the line of comics, but Wonder Twins was a part of it, and they've been wasting a lot of their money on business. They've been well, that does make sense too. They've been wasting a lot of money on business, but they have been wasting a lot of their money on Brian Michael Bendis, who has been working along with the teen-esque books. With this, we have found out also that KJ Appa, of course, known for Archie in Riverdale, was actually trying to get the role of Nightwing, but he got Wonder Twins instead. Yeah,
and
I
as Bub
think.
says, give the Riverdale writers full control of the DCEU. I repeat my earlier
Oh,
statement. Hell
no.
fucking no.
No, thank you.
Um,
I
my
gave up. I gave up on Riverdale. I think within its third season, and I fully
yeah,
knew what the show was by that point, and it got way too ridiculous in season 4. And I'm just like, I'm out. I'm sorry.
absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah.
It, and that's what's broken my heart so much about some of the CW adaptations. Just as a random side note, Archie comics, I grew up with that shit. I loved it. Riverdale looks nothing like Archie comics, other than taking the names, and they did the same fucking thing to Nancy Drew, which it's
Isn't
gonna
that
go
already
on
canceled?
Did it get canceled? It went for
I
2 seasons at least. I think
I
it's in
think
the
it
middle
went
of
for
2
2 seasons
seasons.
because I haven't heard a thing about that show actually. To be
It
completely honest.
it absolutely sucked. I watched the first half season and I was like, "What the fuck is this? This is not Nancy Drew." Um. So, anyways, back to Wonder Twins. No, I think my biggest concern with this, because I've seen KJ Appa in a couple other things. I have not seen Isabel May in anything that I can remember. But KJ has been in a couple good things that I've enjoyed. But uh, the Wonder Twins in the show are like they look like they're brown skinned, and we got 2 white people cast. So
Yeah, I mean that has been a big topic of discussion since this announcement, and I would honestly say, to be completely honest, if you want to give the trash characters to white people, then more power to them. So let's keep that to that. But I mean, it is a problem. It is. Regardless of if I think they're trash or not, as far as characters, they should be represented. I can't even talk. I'm also getting tired. Uh, they need to be represented the way that they were portrayed when they first were created. And ever since, shoot, Super Friends, I think they have been displayed as people of color. So why they chose white individuals, I'm not entirely sure. But it is what it is. That's how
Yeah.
that's how Hollywood rolls, unfortunately. SWeb says the only time I've ever paid attention to Archie is that they were advertised in a Sonic comic that I used to read. Yeah, because Sonic was actually written under Archie Comics. That is why at one point. But I think that is it for the show. That is one of our shortest shows, to be completely honest, in quite some time, other than the Superman and Lois reviews.
I
Thank you
appreciate you.
guys. Yes, we're trying to keep this a very short show. Katie, thank you so much for joining us tonight. I'm sorry that it had to be immediately after everything that happened last night for you, but
It's
where
okay.
can the lovely people find you?
No, if you want more of my hot takes and my strong opinions on writers in general, you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram. It's at Slice of Katie. Um, my two shows on the Geek Ultimate Alliance Podcast Network. I've got Slice of Film, which is at Slice of Film One. All in the game, you're gonna have to ask the Marvel Alliance guys if they will invite me on to Marvel Alliance. I may go back on Twitter, but so many people not attacked me. Nobody attacks me on Twitter. I just block people who attack me on Twitter. But I had so many comments, and I'm just ready to go to bed. And I probably forget about it in the morning. So if you want me to talk about it, ask the Marvel Alliance guys if they will allow me to come on, and I'll explain myself. Um, so I'm gonna leave it at that. No, Slice of Film is now on Mondays. We had an episode that came out yesterday, so Sunday. That is the last Sunday episode for Slice of Film because it's moving. So we will have an episode next week going over The Northman, which is Robert Edgar's new Viking film that comes out this weekend. So I'm very excited for that. It's been one of my top looks since I saw the trailer. I've been really excited for it. So that will be fun. Star Wars Alliance, we're talking and sorry, I'm tired. Slice of Film is on Twitter. It's at Slice of Film 1. Star Wars Alliance is live every Wednesday nights at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We are going to be talking about Trail of Shadows this week, which is the fantastic first adult comic book by Daniel Jose Older. And it was phenomenal. Spoiler alert. But I can't wait to talk about it. And whatever news that decides to come up. Or you could ask us a listener question related to Star Wars. I'm not talking about the Natalie Portman CGI on Star Wars Alliance. I've already talked about it enough on here. But if you want to ask a Star Wars related question, we'll answer those too. So, and that is on Twitter. It's at Star Wars Alliance without the A in the war is very important. Don't forget it. Bye, y'all.
Yes. And of course, you can always find me at Fanboy Clay on Twitter. Go into the link tree in my bio. You can find the shows to you can find the link to all the shows that I host, that including DC Alliance, Batman News Weekly, Ranger Alliance, and I still need to add Star Wars Alliance because, like Katie said, I didn't put it on there. I'm sorry.
Loser.
But that is it, guys. Thank you so much. And we will see you guys next week.